I gotta go to the meeting.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Black Art Today's Women's History Month, HERstory, the powerful legacy of African American women in art, past, present, and future. I am Alicia Clark, founder and CEO of Black Art Today, and we have assembled a panel of phenomenal and powerful African American women making their legacy. Our panel of leaders have shattered the glass ceiling, smashed social barriers, and have given the silent a voice through the power of art. So thank you for joining us as we discuss contributions of African American women, their triumphs and challenges in this male-dominated world of art. Today's discussion will be moderated by Pat Thornton, Executive Director of Gateway Community Development Corporation, and so much more. And with that, Pat, I hand you the virtual mic. Please introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you so much, Alicia. As Alicia said, my name is Pat Thornton, and I'm the Executive Director of Gateway CDC, and that's the Community Development Corporation in the Gateway Arts District. It is a pleasure and an honor to be able to host this panel of illustrious women today. I also happen to chair the board for CTV, Community Television for Prince George's County, and I'm just your public servant. So without any further ado about me, I want to thank Alicia and Lisa, the proprietors of Black Art Today, for pulling together this wonderful event, HERstory, the powerful legacy of African American women in the art. And so I'll give my panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves. They will have a round of introduction, and we'll begin with Keiona Clark.
I just unmuted myself. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry, live. That's what happens, right?
Yes.
So my name is Keiona Clark. I am the manager of 39th Street Gallery. I'm a curator for Gateway CDC. I have the pleasure of working with Ms. Thornton. I am an artist, and I am the founder of the DMV League of Artists, which is an art collective, and we provide opportunities and facilitate possibilities as with all things art for the community and artists in the DMV.
Welcome, Keiona, and thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Surely, we'll move to Jackie Thompson. Jackie, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Pat. Thanks for having me. Thanks to everyone, Black Art Today. I'm happy to be here. My name is Jackie Thompson, and I'm the co-owner of Overdue Recognition Art Gallery in Bowie, Maryland. We represent over 40 African American arts, and we do everything from exhibit, preserve, collect, and encourage African American art in the community. We've been here since, we've been in our new space for 3 years now, but we've been doing this since 2004, and just happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll move to Lisa Alexander.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Brown Alexander, and I'm the co-owner of Wellspring Manor and Spa here in Upper Marlboro, where we also feature art from over 35 artists of color from around the world, coming from Africa, the Caribbean, and here in the United States. I'm thrilled to be here.
Glad to have you. And now we have Marie Lana Queen. Maria.
Thank you, Pat.
Surely.
Thank you, Pat. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maria Lana Queen. I am a native Washingtonian, and I am an abstract artist, self-taught. I've been painting for about 20 years, and I've shown in exhibits all across the country, including the U.S. Virgin Islands, Martha's Vineyard, New York City, and also I was a repeated solo artist at the late Norman Parrish Art Gallery here in Georgetown, D.C. I'm also a part of a few permanent, prominent art collections, including the late David Driscoll's Art Center in College Park, as well as the existing Larry and Brenda Thompson African American art collection permanently displayed in the Georgia Museum of Art. My art is best depicted as a painted diary, which I think we'll get into in a few minutes. Thank you.
And certainly last but not least, Dr. Sheila Wright, please join us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be a part of this panel. So thank you to Black Art Today for having me. My name is Sheila Wright, and I am an avid, passionate collector of African American art. I've been collecting for almost 30 years now, and have recently, in the last couple of years, decided to promote African American art as much as I can in teaching and providing networking opportunities with new collectors. And so I also am an art collection coach and consultant, and have recently published a book featuring 70 works in my collection. It talks about my journey as a collector. And the name of that book is Wondrous Works. We published it and launched it in 2019.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're going to go to the full panel and start this lively discussion and bring everyone in. And as we bring everyone in, if everyone can turn all your volumes down as low as you can, it'll make it for smoother listening. And now that we're all here and we've all introduced ourselves, one of the things that's been going on that I think really brings to light the resiliency of women and the resiliency of all, but we happen to be in Women's History Month. So we're going to carry on the theme of Women's History Month, which is Valiant Women and the Vote, refusing to be silenced. And I think each and every woman who happens to be on this panel has refused to be silenced in one way or another. Because during these trying times, we had to be resilient. We're living through COVID-19. We're living through issues dealing with racial disparities. We have the Black Lives Matter movement, and we just have so many things that we're dealing with. The resiliency, the care, and all of those woman characteristics and qualities are very prominent right now and very needed. So I'm going to begin the discussion by asking you to think about what you needed to do and what you needed to pull on to make a shift during these times. How have you shifted during this time that we're living in right now? And how has your past and your passion and your beingness helped you to make it through this period? And, I would pull for hands, but I'm going to go straight to Jacqueline Thompson since she smiled at me. And you can unmute yourself.
I got to keep my finger near the mute button. Yeah, thanks. So, wow, what a powerful question. What you were saying about what were we leaning on? Of course, you know, our first answer probably for everyone on the panel is the art, because art can be therapy and very healing. What I found though, this was a very trying time, with all of the loss and everything going on, that I tend to dig in more when things are going rough, is one of the things that I tend to do. So I've immersed myself more in, trying to get the word out about African American art and things like that. But the pandemic is, it's a lot, as all of you all know. And then of course, with everything going on with Black Lives Matter, every death that we have seen recently, senseless death, over the years has definitely affected all of us. But I would say that that's probably my easiest answer to say, is that I just dig in and focus on things that's going to help change things around. Also last year we had the huge election. So I did a lot of work on that as well. But just focused on the things that I needed to get done is where I kept my focus.
Absolutely. We tend to focus on what we need to get done, but also we had to change some of what we were doing. Now, you actually own a gallery.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything different, that you did in the gallery? Of course, you had to be closed for a little while, and when you opened back up, you had to kind of shift a little bit. What are some of the things that you did there?
So yes, we were closed 4 months. And when we first closed, I immediately thought of our online presence, social media presence, and started working on getting that better, and did a lot of changing on the website to make sure everything was updated and promoting the website, because that's now where our only traffic was going to come from. So just did a lot of those things. And then once we got back open, of course, we couldn't have our events here, our exhibits and things like that. And we also rent the gallery out for special occasion events as well. So, and we still haven't opened back up for that. So another thing we started doing is Facebook or live art shows and things like that. And that has really helped us a lot.
Fantastic. Now, when you talk about live, I think about Keiona, because Keiona Clark, she had to actually do a lot of artwork. And I happened to be watching on Facebook one day, and Keiona went live and she was painting something in one of the Busboys and Poets spots. And my motherly self came over me and I said, Keiona, do you have a mask? What are you doing? So Keiona, tell us what you did and some of the activities that you participated in as you shifted.
So to speak on the story that Pat's telling, she literally called me and said, "What are you doing out there?" And I was like, "I'm the only person on the sidewalk. It is okay." But so yeah, during the pandemic, I got someone reached out to me. Actually, it was Luther Wright reached out to me, and he had an opportunity at Busboys and Poets to put murals up on the windows. So there was some vandalism to one of the Busboys and Poets locations, and Andy, who was the owner of Busboys and Poets, actually painted a piece on there and had an idea to come up with paint the storefront. So he hired some artists to paint murals on the windows of Busboys and Poets. So that's kind of where everything started. So I was one of the artists that they reached out to, or sorry, I was one of the artists that was blessed to be on that project. So I actually got the opportunity to another artist. And then from there, the Paints Institute notified me, which is founded by John Chisholm. And we did some murals on New York Avenue. So at the time, that was just for COVID virus. So I did 2 on New York, 1 on L, and 1 on 7th Street. And it was like from there, just kind of snowballed. And then the George Floyd situation happened with the Black Lives Matter movement. And because of the vandalism during the riot, they covered a lot of those buildings up downtown with boards. So then from there, I was just being contacted to do murals downtown on the boarded up buildings. So, that actually allowed me as an artist to be a voice for the voiceless, to actually be a presence for those who did not come out to protest because of the COVID virus. And, those boards kind of acted as a metaphorical megaphone for the community, basically speaking for those who couldn't speak, and also giving hope to those who probably didn't leave their houses. So we kind of represented a voice for them to say, hey, we know what's going on, we know how you feel, so we're expressing it for you through art.
Well, not only were you a voice for the voiceless, but you actually put a love message on the storefront that you were painting, and bringing love and bringing harmony and bringing that kind of spirit really can change the perception that people have. When the 60s riots were over, I wasn't around then. When the 60s riots were over and everything was all boarded up and there wasn't any art on it or anything like that, it was very dismal. And, the whole paint the mural or paint the storefront idea really has changed how we feel about what we're having to walk through. So I thank you for that. And when you talk about that, actually your comments and Jackie comments brought me to think about Maria Lana, because Maria Lana talked about therapy, and you mentioned that this is a way for you to speak up for the voiceless. We also have to think about folks who use art as a kind of therapeutic tool. So Maria Lana, why don't you come in and tell us about your art and about how art works through you and how you work through your art.
Yes, thank you,
Mhm.
Pat. Well, it's interesting. You actually mentioned 3 subjects. You mentioned resilience, COVID, and the Black Lives Matter movement, and now actually 4 therapeutic, uh, how art is therapeutic. For me, all of those categories fit into the reason why I paint. It's just a coincidence that we're just talking about this common element. So when I first started painting, it was almost 20 years ago when my brother suddenly passed away unexpectedly. And of course, you can imagine the level of grief that I was feeling, and I had insomnia. I couldn't sleep, and I really couldn't function, to be honest with you. And I'm a self-taught artist, so I knew nothing about art painting. I'm a model, so I felt like these hands could not get into paint. But needless to say, one of my best friends, Marva Street, gave me a set of art supplies. And she says, you know what, try this. You don't paint, but just try to get your emotions out and see where you go. Since then, it has been quite an artistic journey for me. I mentioned that my art work, represented here as an example, it's like a painted diary. So everything that I'm feeling comes out through my artworks on paper and canvas. So during the pandemic, I did much more, obviously, of soul searching. And I'm a resilient person anyway. People who know me know that I am a resilient person. I always bounce back and always will. However, I begin to retreat to my space. I'm blessed that I have a studio in my home here. So I didn't really have to go out and worry about how am I going to get to my studio during a pandemic. So I happen to always paint at night. I'm a professional in the government by day. I advocate for young people who live in low income housing. But at night and early in the morning, I've always painted. That's my space. So I go upstairs to my studio and I create. What I have reflected on, again, coincidentally, it just came to me spiritually, was the Black Lives Matter movement. I would turn on the television. I'd see a lot of commentary about it. I appreciated Muriel Bowser creating the Black Lives Matter Plaza with the yellow and black. I began to paint about resilience. As a matter of fact, this painting in back of me is titled Resilience. It focuses on how all hands on deck should be on deck for Black children, okay, growing up so that they have a better life than some of us or our ancestors had. We're paving the way for them. And so resilience to me is that we've also always been, at least me, a person of faith. I'm relying on my faith. That is what has gotten me through COVID. It will get me through everything and anything years to come. But I began to paint exactly what was on my mind. Instead of being frustrated and showing people my frustration, I began to paint what I feel the Black Lives Matter movement is all about. And it is about resilience. It is about paying homage to our ancestors and those who have paved the way. I'm paving a way for some of my younger nieces and nephews. But also, I just relied on my faith. That's what I've always done in life. And resilience, it's going to get you through. And so in my paintings, you'll see crosses, you'll see cages. Sometimes we feel caged that we can't change things. You also see ladders, which represent a way to escape. You also see tracks in my paintings. And I speak about that because most of my patrons recognize my work as such. I am also an identical twin, so I tend to paint diptychs, which here represents 2 paintings together to tell a story. And so I'm telling my family story, and I'm personally telling my story, which gets me through day and night. And I paint sometimes up until 6 a.m. in the morning, but I have the best burst of energy for work. I know it sounds crazy, but to get out something like that is very therapeutic for me. So it gives me added energy to get through the day.
There's nothing strange about that. As a matter of fact, when I do more and I'm more productive and I have more meaningful contributions, I have a whole bunch of energy. And, and we really have to think about that in terms of how we direct our energy and how we savor sleep and how we pattern what we do. Because you're patterning what you do to actually generate energy so that you can even be more purposeful elsewhere.
Exactly.
Which is something that's very dynamic, and we can always judge. I know that there's a book out that talks about Ariana Huffington, about the relevancy of sleep. I think we need to put it all together, and I'm hoping that you will be working with some of our curators, Keiona Clark and and we can have some exhibits afterwards of all of this work that you're actually developing right now. And speaking of, we'll do that. And speaking of curating, and speaking of places to exhibit your art, I would like to move to Lisa, because Lisa Brown Alexander actually has provided an opportunity for people to display their work. And that's a part of her art story. But why don't you tell us a little bit about how you have helped as we've been going through COVID and the things that you've had to kind of shift to, Lisa?
Sure. Thank you so much, Pat. Recognizing my fellow panelists, just want to say thank you for the opportunity. I am with Wellspring Manor and Spa. I'm one of the co-owners with my husband, Kevin Alexander. And resilience is something we can spell backwards and forwards. Having just opened in 2018, and then COVID came at the beginning of 2020, early in 2020, we were just getting our momentum going with the entire Wellspring experience, which for us goes beyond art, but art is an integral part of what we do. And so in addition to displaying the works of over 35 artists of color from around the world, we also offer a luxury overnight experience. We have an on-site spa. We're in the middle of 7 acres in the middle of Prince George's County. But our entire operation was shut down as a result of COVID. And so we had to dig in deep to our resilience pool for not only financial resources, but just the wherewithal to keep pushing through and holding on when we had really just begun. And so resilience was lived for us and has been lived. We remain closed. We hope to reopen in May, but we do remain closed, and that has required a very high level of resilience, determination, and to add what has already been said, faith. And so I believe that we had a clear vision for creating this space and believe that it will resume at the appropriate time. So that has required us to be incredibly resilient. And I'm grateful for the resilience that we do have.
You know, there's only one problem that I always have with Lisa Brown Alexander. She's just too modest. You see, I have full disclosure. I actually knew Lisa in her professional, or should I say her other side of her professional life. And I actually attended a benefit at Wellspring Spa. It was for Eric Barron, and Marcus Johnson was there. And I had an opportunity to go up to the art place or art space at Wellspring Spa, Manor and Spa. And I was just overcome and overwhelmed by the feeling and the spirit. You know, the space where you tell us a little bit about the space that you've developed, and you've actually used it actually during, since we've been starting to open up. Tell us about that, and tell us about the care and everything and your intention for that space.
Yeah. Wellspring was designed specifically to allow people to relax, rejuvenate, and be restored. And we do that through the physical space that we're in. And we also do it through music and through art. And so we partnered very early on when we stood up Wellspring with our curator, Barry Blackman. And Barry is extremely well connected in the local arts community and is responsible for creating the art experience here at Wellspring. And so we designed it so that people could walk in and feel a sense of pride about the care and the excellence that we've tried to exude through the Wellspring experience. So I'm grateful to Barry. He's connected us with so many people, and we feel a responsibility to use this space to give space for artists whose work might have been propped up against the wall in their apartment or in their basement or in their garage. People who are incredibly talented, but maybe others don't know about. And so I feel really good about that and the role that we've had to play, albeit short, in the local arts community.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And we appreciate that. And when we talk about curating art, displaying art, then we have to talk about the historian and the collection of art, because many people have had a lot of time during this period. And so we're going to move to Dr. Sheila Wright. I understand that I would really love to come and just see your collection. In fact, now that we have one thing about COVID-19, do you know that we learned at Gateway that you can just do a virtual tour of your space, and maybe we can do some sharing. But tell us a little bit about how you've made a shift during COVID-19. And I understand that you also talked about publishing your book. So give us a little inside track on that.
So first of all, I would say that I think for people of color in the African diaspora, resilience is our middle name. I think that we have an ability to quickly know how we need to pivot to survive. And so I think that's when, in the midst of whatever turmoil or struggle that we have, that's when we really see our creativity shining through. So I kind of just wanted to share that. As a collector, uh, you know, for me, instead of going to galleries and things of that nature, there were artists who increased their social media presence. Some galleries did the same. And so for me, what I do continued to kind of with the same level of consistency. I do a lot of auctioning, a lot of participating and acquiring work through auctions. And so there were a number of auctions during during that lat 2020. And so I was able to really see what was out there, what was available. And there were a number of collectors just like I was out there acquiring work. So the acquisition of work did not at all diminish. As far as me personally in the Wondrous Works in the consulting space, normally I would have a series of sessions, art and soul sessions, where collectors could come and learn more about what it would take to, or art enthusiasts would come and learn more about what it would take to maintain their collection, learn more about emerging artists and contemporary artists and things of that nature, things I might want to watch out for. So for me, it caused me to use these meeting platforms more, social media more, to get the word out. Those art enthusiasts, I've been able to acquire a few clients out of that effort, and just them searching and deciding that they really were excited about what our people, Black and brown people, were creating, and wanted to be a part of that, wanted to be a part of legacy building and wealth building. And so I've been able to acquire a few clients that way. As far as the book is concerned, I think that, initially we had plans for the first breakout year of the book, kind of slowed that down, but it did permit other opportunities. We're still sharing with millennials. I find myself sharing with millennials more and more, college students, graduate students, about artwork and seeing their level of excitement. I started collecting when I was in graduate school, and to see that level of excitement amongst our young adults is truly something that I am myself excited about, and I encourage their interest in phasing them into collecting art as much as I possibly can, providing virtual networking opportunities that seem to help for a number of folks in my tribe.
In your tribe, because we certainly are a village.
Yes.
And it takes a village.
Yes, it does.
I also noticed that you've been teaching classes. Have you been teaching, giving sessions to help people learn about collecting?
I've been having one-on-one coaching sessions. I have some folks that call me either once a week or every other week, and we have one-on-one coaching sessions about, emerging artists, work that's hard to find, and how they would go about acquiring the work, how they should care for the work, and making sure that they take the necessary steps to document, have the documentation, like collection management types of information, the different type of printmaking styles, original, original mediums and things of that nature, value in talking about art valuation and appraisal. So a lot of the things that a person would need to know about collection management, because art, art is the new, African American art is the new blue chip.
But actually, it certainly is. I would, of course, agree. But at least now today, you have many different opportunities to enter at different levels. And one of the things that I noticed about overdue recognition is that they allow you an opportunity to come in at any level. And I would really like to know from, let's go back full circle, but I'd like to know, as we talk about this giclée and many different forms of art, I saw a piece that was being sold by Black Art Today. I couldn't afford it. I had to buy the other one. And so, I know that at your gallery, Jacqueline, you actually you have prints, you have framed work, you have many different levels for people to enter into becoming a collector. Tell us why and why that's so important.
It's really important because we want everyone collecting on so many levels, because the representation of the art matters the most. We want to show what we look like on everybody's wall, for these little girls and boys to see people that look like them, kings and queens on their walls, African Americans celebrating on their walls. So we do have a little bit of everything here. First of all, we have different types of artists themselves. We have a few emerging artists. Most of our artists are mid-career. And then we are proud to say we have some master artists here as well. And so giclée, you mentioned giclée. Giclées are probably one of our best-selling reproductions that we have. So we have the original works here for clients. And then we have, for people who are just getting started, we have these giclée pieces. We also have serigraphs here, which is the closest thing you probably can get to an original. So
can I stop you for a second and ask you to clarify for those who may not know what a serigraph is and what giclée is, so that they can know.
Right. Okay, so a serigraph is, like I said, it's the closest thing to an original. It's a silk screen, sort of like a printing process where, let's say, a piece of art has 50 colors in it. And the printer, he has to layer one layer of paint at a time in order to create this piece. And they're assigned and numbered pieces. They're usually done by more established artists. And so they're a great way for people who are just getting into art, or or even more established collectors can purchase serigraphs as well. The giclée process is a process underneath the serigraph, and it shoots the ink out of a printer, and they're usually limited editions, and they can come on canvas or on paper. So we just want to have here at the gallery a large array of different types of ways people can start their collections.
Mm-hmm. And that's very important. I thank you for that. And if we're talking about resiliency and talking about the selling of art and the curation of art, I know, Keiona Clark, you actually head up the DMV League of Artists. And so there's a giving portion of what you do as well. And tell us a little bit about what it has taken to keep other people motivated, and how the being part of a collective can help people, because I think that community is very important during these times, and women have a way of making sure that we open our arms and bring as many people in as possible. So tell us about that.
So the DMV League of Artists is an art collective. Of course, I'm the founder, and we basically build bridges for collectives. We allow for for artists. We allow or we represent some of the top artists in the area. Matter of fact, I think we're all kind of connected. Some of us are connected. We have artists that's in Overdue, not through us, but as an individual artist, we do have artists that's at Overdue. I'm actually in Wellspring, and then I think 3 other members of the DMV League have their work in Wellspring. So a lot of times our networks somehow connect. We share opportunities sometimes, like maybe someone's looking for an artist, one of us to say, hey, we have this person on our team, we have this person on our team. We also have emerging artists, we have experienced artists, and we have master artists also in our collective. So together we work to do bigger things. So one of those things we did not last year, but in 2019 in December before the pandemic, we went to Art Basel and basically took 13 artists, DMV League took 13 artists to Art Basel. We showed at Spectrum Gallery, which is, one of the elite galleries in Art Basel. And we had the pleasure of showing there. Again, even in Miami, we were beside artists like Woodrow Ash. Each of us have what I call a superpower. So a lot of my superpower, and this is the reason why I established this organization, was my networking and my relationships. One of those actually being Gateway. Gateway was the birthed the DMV League of Artists through all the work that I did with them. So yeah, I think, did I answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you answered my question quite well. And as a matter of fact, you bring me to a point where we as a collective can actually answer a question. I'm going to do a rapid fire question that will go to everyone. So we'll bring everybody together and give you an opportunity to identify your shero. I'll start since I popped it on you. I tried not to pop too many things on you, but my shero is June Jordan. Jordan was a poetess, a poet, and definitely someone who was very, very active during the civil rights movement. But she wrote many, many books. She happened to be my English teacher at Stony Brook also. She was a prolific, poet, and she was my English teacher. But she's someone who spent a lot of time writing poetry that was so provocative and that told so much truth that your phone line might be tapped or something like that, because she was risking her life so that she can share information about what we need to know about. And I think that in art, oftentimes, the artists are the people who tell the first story. They tell the story that is not laden with a lot of expectation and other kinds of things that happen when we try and fit into the other worlds. You can be as free, as Maria Lana said, as you need to be. And so I'd like for you to actually identify a shero of your own and tell us why that person is a shero to you. And I'll let y'all pipe in instead of directing. Who wants to go first?
I can take
I'll
that.
try.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take Maria Lana since we just left Keiona. Go ahead, Maria Lana.
Oh, I'm just going to say that is a very difficult question to answer because I have several. I mean, from living, my mom, my best friend, Margaret Street, she's inspired me. She was the one that got me on this journey. But I have to say, E.J. Montgomery, she's a phenomenal, fine artist, Black artist, older female. I hope to walk in her shoes one day. However, Stacey Abrams, okay, today,
all right,
with the voters' right movement, even more importantly. So she may or may not be related to art, but the journey that she's on, trust me, she's my shero for today for several reasons.
Which might inspire a lot of art. So I'll give
Absolutely.
you an option. Have a personal person, and not so personal person. Who's next? I think Keiona, you said that you would go, so I'll let you go.
I did. It's funny that you said it because I was going to say the same thing. And then when you say personal, not so personal, I really can't go there. But
yeah, okay.
So I had this conversation kind of the other day with someone else. Because we always, as artists, always ask like, who do we aspire to be or who do we look up to? But I'm surrounded by such strong women that those are the people that are my sheroes. Lisa and Alicia are my sheroes. Pat, you're one of my sheroes. Michelle Darden Lee.
Absolutely.
That's one of my sheroes. My grandmother, who survived breast cancer, as did I, is my shero. So those are the women that, have made me during my journey to become the woman that I am. And those are the women that I deal with every day that help me grow. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I'm looking. Lisa, go ahead.
Sure. So I'm with Keiona. My sheroes are in my family. I come from a family of very resilient, very strong Jamaican women. I'm very proud of my Jamaican heritage and what it has given me in terms of strength and tenacity and determination. And so I'm very grateful but from an artistic perspective, even though she's not a visual artist, Roberta Flack to me is representative of vocal perfection. And her, if you listen to her recordings from the 60s and the 70s, you will hear absolute vocal perfection. If that could be transferred to art, it would be spectacular, right? Visual art. So Maria Lana, that's for you. Maybe you can create something from Roberta Flack's work. And I would say from a visual artist, we have a couple of artists, including Keiona, women whose works are in the house. But Michelle Lucas has become one of my favorites. Her work is on display here at Wellspring. And I really, I relate to abstract work for some reason, and her work is just spectacular. But I also want to recognize Donette Cooper, who is a local resident to the DMV, but of Jamaican heritage. I've known her most of my adult life. I know her sister very well. And Donette, to me, exemplifies creativity. Not only is she an amazing quilter, but she also is a seamstress. She is, a creator of all things creative. If you look at her when she's dressed, she's just, her clothing is a work of art. And so I love the multifaceted nature of her talent. Because I think it represents what we as Black women need to do. We can, as I said before, make macaroni and cheese, curl hair, and get the kids straight all at once. And that's what Donette does as she kind of walks through every space. So she's my Cheryl for sure.
Thank you so very much. And you mentioned something, Lisa, that's very important. Oftentimes when we think of art, we think of visual art. But art is art in so many different forms. There's performance art, there's visual art, there's all types of art. And art actually inspires. And there can be experiences and there can be art that's experienced at different levels. So as you go on to talk about your sheroes and how you've been inspired by them, be sure to include more than visual art. Sheila? Let's go to you.
Oh, I would have to say, first and foremost, of course, my mom and my grandmother, Ida Wright and Gladys Mitchell, who were focused on family and strength and just being strong women of faith and wisdom. And so they will always be my sheroes. I have to say that from the art perspective, I'm kind of torn. I have three women that I think have really, their work really resonate with me in some way. And Jackie's going to know at least one of them, and that would be Elizabeth Catlett. I first had an opportunity to see an Elizabeth Catlett sculpture at the Stella Jones Gallery in 2014 in New Orleans. And when Miss Jones pulled back this one special door, and there was this bronze sculpture of one of Miss Catlett's work, I was a goner. I was done. It was a wrap. Exit stage left. I was done, and knew that I could probably never afford those sculptures, but I felt like I had just accomplished something just by actually being that close to one. But the other thing is because Miss Catlett just really depicted the struggle of women in every one of her pieces that I've seen. In some way, there is a theme of a woman, of a woman or women struggling to survive. And so that would be one. And I guess the next one would be Samela Lewis, because I think that they were very closely aligned, masterful printmaker in her own right, and artist, and just her mastering of linoleum cuts and wood cuts is just phenomenal to me. And then I will say Faith Ringgold, because I noticed that Ms. Ringgold is also, to me, that historian in her work. If you had an opportunity to observe, Martin Luther King in the Midnight Jail, and Here Comes Moses, and her homage to Henry O. Tanner, that she seems to really focus on in her work the history of our people, right? The struggle of our people, and how at the end of the day we survive and thrive. So I would have to say those three women are art sheroes to me.
Well, thank you very much for sharing and also for taking us to our next segment. You all have been really good. I haven't had to work. We just kind of flow right along. In fact, I was going to go to Jackie afterwards, and I want for the rest of you to be thinking about how art might have impacted you in the past. Has there been a piece of art that actually prompted you, just like a prompt for a written piece, to take action? And I'm moving to Jackie, and I thought the segue was really good, Dr. Wright, because you said that Jacqueline Thompson would know some of the pieces that you talked about. And I'm sure that you also know, Jackie, what art tends to sell a lot and what have been movement pieces and what is a movement piece, to share how art has oftentimes shaped and actually ignited our populace to just express. And I think right now, because we were hibernating for a little while at the beginning of COVID, the expression of art, your book, Dr. Wright, and your collection, Maria Lana, and many other activities that have gone on. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Jacqueline, to talk about if there's been an increased demand for certain art and what type of art has moved during these times of movement and times of unrest. And did you get to talk about your sheroes?
And no, but
We're gonna start there first. We're gonna start with the sheroes, and then you can segue.
Okay. So I wanted to say that you all pretty much covered it all. I recently lost my father, and so to see what my mother is going through, I mean, she's always been my shero, but the last couple of months, I'm like, whoa, this woman is really powerful for what she's, lost and what she's going through. I loved what Keiona said, that we're all connected in a way, and that so that kind of makes us each other's sheroes as well. On an art shero, I also love what Marie said, that her art is like a diary. That just made her instantly my shero right there when she said that. And Sheila, Elizabeth Catlett, you took that one from me as well. She's definitely, what she did for not only the art movement, but for women, her struggle, as being a woman artist back in the day, and her having to leave the country to be able to continue to be creative and things like that. And I'm sure you were breathtaking by seeing that sculpture. So definitely, she's my artistic shero. In the gallery, and I would say, art goes through time periods. So let's take it back to, let's say, when President Obama was in, we started to see a very big rise in civil rights work come to life. And then, of course, now where we are with everything that we just went through in the White House, we saw that surge come back with the arts movement. Artists like Charlie Palmer, who just, he changes the temperature in the room with his art, with what he does, his work, as well as some of our other artists. We have an artist who just passed away last year, Anthony Armstrong, who did this great civil rights series of To the Colored Waiting Room, pieces like that. So those are probably our most best-selling, should I say, pieces of works that are going on, is the pieces that are speaking to the movement. We have a woman artist here, Rebecca Crouch, who did this 10-piece series of leaders from the past who all have messages that are still relevant today. And if you could see the colors from those pieces, they give you such a unsettling feeling right now, because you can feel color. So they give you an unsettling feeling. And I think as a community, as African Americans, that's how we're feeling right now, either due to the pandemic or, what's going on in the White House and then the Black Lives Movement going on, that that's what's really working for us right now, and that's what's hot for us right now.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is. I kind of forget myself sometimes. You know, I was so busy listening to you, I forgot that I was supposed to be moderating. But you see, it's really important. And it actually brought up another thought to ask you all. What is it, and what is your role that you feel a need to play as we transition out of this period to the new reality? You know, what is it, and what is the role that you feel you would like to play, and how would you like to do it as we transition to this new reality? Because there's going to be a new world order. We don't want the old world anymore. It's not relevant. And I think art is going to be front and center as we move forward. Art is always front and center. We just use art and then we put it aside when we want to do what we think, what art has paved the way for. But as you're paving a new road, what is it that you'd like to pave? And what is your role in this new world? I'll go with Maria Lana.
Okay, so while it's on my mind, so this is a great question. So for me, it's very important for me and my work to inspire young people, particularly the most vulnerable. I feel and felt like I was a vulnerable young person growing up. I grew up in a low-income family, raised one of 10 children by a single Black female. And that plight is quite interesting. And if you compare maybe my plight or what I paint about, is very similar to some of the artists that we've been speaking about. Elizabeth Catlett's, Jacob Lawrence's, Richard Mayhew's, Ramir Bearden's. These are they are the masters. But there are also quite a few emerging artists. Just paint. My role and the dent that I hope to make in this world is that I will speak and show my mind and help others understand that it's okay if you have challenges. That's life. Particularly, unfortunately, if you are Black or you are a young African American person just trying to make it in life, you are likely to experience, unfortunately, an unjust system. So social justice, I'm really pushing that with my work. That's what I've been hibernating with for the past year. And I just want to kind of put my mark on the world that if you are poor or you live in a certain zip code, it's okay. Your zip code doesn't determine your destiny. I like to say that because it's true. So I hope to leave that mark. I hope to inspire. Where I move forward, I hope to lift others up. And if that's through visual arts, I also love to dance. My twin sister, was a dancer, studied dance at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts. We love to dance. So Pat, you mentioned performing arts, whatever that might be. If it's writing, we as a people, we have a lot to write about. We have a lot to perform about and to paint about. So I hope to just continue to inspire people. Do your thing. I'm self-taught. It doesn't matter if you studied art or not. Who would have known 20 years later, I'm in the Georgia Museum of Art. I'm in a collection with Romare Bearden and Richard Mayhew's, Elizabeth Catlett's. But at the same time, it's not about the sale for me. I'm blessed because I do get sales. I'm trying to give back in the way that someone gave me a chance. And that's what I hope to leave. That's what I hope my mark will be on the world. Keiona, I'm also a breast cancer survivor. So you'll get that in my work as well. I'm just painting me and hoping to inspire others.
You already have. And you should link with Keiona, because one of the things that we can do at Gateway is we bring in outside artists too. We had the Harlem Fine Arts show at Gateway, thanks to the work of Keiona and some of the folks that I know. It's all about a village. So we'll be sure to connect with each of you and bring in what it is that you're doing. So when you talk about what you're doing, please tell people how they can connect with you. And Jacqueline Thompson, you mentioned Anthony Armstrong transition. Now, was Anthony Armstrong the person who, one of the first people to start doing collages or collections of art? There was an Anthony Thompson that I knew who was an artist who actually did a lot of the new art.
Anthony, yes, we lost him. It's been a year now. In March, he was the first artist that we personally represented that we've ever lost. So it was very hard for us. But he did cubism. Maybe that's what you were thinking.
Yes.
He did cubism, where he took shapes and put them together. Yeah, he was very well known for it. They compared his work a lot to Picasso. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, he was very well known for his cubism work.
See, I didn't know the terminology. I'm trying.
No,
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, I'm sorry for the loss. And when you all mention um, go through this, make sure you tell people how to be connected with you. That is, what is your role? So who was next?
I'll talk about my role at Wellspring. I'm new to the art space as a collector, and Wellspring is new as a space where artists' work can be displayed. But I think there is a role to play when you have either access to physical space or access to resources to be a conduit. I'm not an artist myself, but I have a very deep appreciation for art. And we took our blank walls and made them available to anyone who wanted to have their work displayed, whether they were emerging or master artists. Our youngest artist whose work we sold here was 12 years old, and it sold for a commanding amount of money. And she was thrilled, and that was her first foray into this space. We also represent the work of people in their 70s. And so again, we're not artists. I'm not, my husband is not, but what we have done, our role, we believe, is to make space available to good art and to put it in front of people who might otherwise not see it, who might not otherwise go into a gallery because they might feel intimidated, but they'll come into a home, they'll come and stay here for a short vacation, they may come here for a gathering of some sort, and they get to experience art in a way that they've never seen it before. And hopefully it helps them realize that they can put it up on their own walls in their own homes, and they can influence others to do the same.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dr. Wright?
So I really am focused on the next generation of collectors, right? The generation, the Zoomers, the millennials, the Zoomers, the Generation Ys and the Generation Zs. I think that has really kind of stirred up something in me because we have a number of contemporary artists out there that are thriving, that are seeing multi-million-dollar auction sales of their work. Amy Sherald and Carrie James Marshall, so I'm kind of like focused on, hey, how, some of our younger aspiring collectors may see that and say, this is not something that I will ever be able to afford to do. And so my focus is basically to do what folks did for me when I started collecting, what Ted Ellis did and Kenneth Gatewood did and Larry Pancho Brown did, and just sharing with me, exposing me to artists and sharing with me the community, the game, the tools of the trade, whatever the case may be. And many of them say, hey, Dr. Wright, Dr. She, can I come and see your collection? And so haven't been able to do that in COVID. And young people, they're just like, oh, I'll just throw on a mask. We can come and we can do it. And I'm like, no, we can't come, we can't do it. And so we actually went virtual and placed a virtual tour on my website so that anybody can see, and I've actually posted social media a few times so anyone can take a tour of a good part of my collection, a good part of Wondrous Works collection. So my focus is.
Can you share that website, please?
Oh, www.wondrousworks, all one word, LLC, WONDROUS works, WORKS LLC.com. And then anyone can go and see take a tour of the Wondrous Works collection. But that's really where I'm focused. Focused on, hey, how can it be affordable for you? I can't afford it, Dr. Shee. How can I start? And just kind of talking them through it and working with them. The last few months, I've been talking to a number of college students. Participated in the Art Facts talk on yesterday with Keiona and I, in talking to a number of college students as well, and just sharing with them, hey, it's doable, it can happen. And looking at it, whether you're getting something because you like it, or getting something from this, or getting a piece of artwork from the standpoint of legacy building and wealth building, right? Understanding that art is also an investment. Just talking to them about those basic concepts, that if you're going to buy some stock, buy some art. So it's kind of looking at the various dynamics of what we offer as people of color. And I would like to say this one last thing. In 2020, Jackie talked about Charlie Palmer on the cover of Time magazine, Kabir Nelson on the cover of The New Yorker, and Rolling Stone, Kerry James Marshall on the cover of Vogue, Amy Sherrill on the cover of Vanity Fair, Gordon Castillo also on the cover of Time, and Bisa Butler on the cover of The New Yorker. So all of, this last 2020 was a crazy kind of year, but it was a dynamic year, right? And I think that a lot of the art, Charlie Palmer also being on the cover of John Legend's new CD, that's how the young people are seeing African American art live in front of them. Karen Buster had work featured on the set of Coming to America. That's how our young people, Queen Sugar, John Biggers, Queen Sugar, Richard Mayhew. That's how our young people are seeing art becoming live in their face. And so we kind of have to play on that. And when they have those questions, be there to provide them those answers.
Well, I certainly thank you for that add-on, because it was very, very important. As a matter of fact, many people were probably introduced to Black art through the Cosby Show. Cosby Show was one of the first shows.
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Different World, Good Times with Ernie Barnes. Yes.
Yes, I think that's really an important point, and takes us to another segue, and that is reaching back to some of the younger individuals, or some of the individuals who may not be as aware of the power of art, or the power of presence, or the power of display. I know there was an artist. She was actually the sister of somebody I was interviewing on my radio show. And she said that she had done art. She had written a book, and I had the book, and I really liked this art. So I went to her website, and I really loved her art. And we had a vacant space in the Open Studio Tours, which is an open studio for approximately 150 artists in the Gateway Arts District. Everyone opens their studios. And as Gateway, we have studios, and there was a vacant studio that was not being used. And I said, you can use this studio to display your art. It was the first time she framed her art. She said, Pat, I don't, my husband, pays for me to have a little studio and everything. And this is something that I just do. And, so I shared it with you, but I really haven't done any exhibits. I said, there's something special about your art. And we put her up in the Easy Storage Studios, and we did some advertising. And when I spoke with her last year, she said, you know something? Gateway was the beginning for me. My art is now in New York, and Alicia Keys just brought one of my pieces. Now, that was someone who never wanted, and she was looking for what it is that you get, so what is it that I have to do? I said, no, well, I can't charge you, because this is an open tour. I'm really just trying to help you. I see some talent. We have this space. We really don't want for it to be empty during the tour. And this is just, she said, you sure? But what, people look for the other end, I said, no, I don't want anything. Just come. And her mother came, and she thanked me and all of this stuff. But I want you in a quick lightning round to talk about something like that, just 1 or 2 minutes. Just talk about something like that where you may have given someone some exposure. You may have said a word to somebody. You may have that young girl who had sold a piece of work in your studio, Lisa, over $1,000, and she was 12 years old. Tell us a little something like that that might inspire some folks. Who wants to go first?
You know what? Oh, go ahead, please, Keiona. Go ahead.
No, I was saying you can continue, but I'm gonna. So, no, I just wanted to say real quick. The whole time you were talking, I was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. I just want to say, first of all, I played 3 roles. I'm Keiona Clark. I'm Keiona Clark, the artist, and then I'm Keiona Clark, the founder of the league. I'm also a muralist, but I guess that's 4. So, because of that, one of the things that I think has been my role in all of this is to be the voice for the artists and the community. A lot of the artists don't understand the business side, so a lot of people take advantage of that. So I find myself being that person for all of those people. As far as what your question was, it kind of segued into what I was trying to get my point to, which is we also represent emerging artists, and we have events as well that allow these emerging artists to sit beside some of these top artists. I've had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Palmer. He actually critiqued my work. I've also I have a relationship with a lot of the top artists. If I don't know them, I know how to get to them, or I know somebody that knows them. So I'm saying that to say that, some of our artists are just as good as Charles Palmer, but, it's up to us to give them a platform so that way they can be seen by the same people who look at Charles Palmer. So if we put their work beside someone else who's more experienced, who has the collectors, it exposes them to the collectors. Because again, we're not going to say they're no less talented than these other guys. Just no one just knows who they are.
Yeah, I can relate to that so much because we've had works by artists who nobody knows. And as I said, there are several artists that are on display now whose work was propped against the wall in the basement, covered in dust, whose work is absolutely spectacular. And had I not mentioned the age of Carrington Hayes, the young lady, the 12-year-old whose work sold here, the person who purchased it would have never known. Her work far exceeded her age. And that was an entree for her. And her mother told me that they screamed and cried and jumped and were just so excited to know that her work had sold. And so I hope that 20 years from now or 15 years from now, Carrington reflects on the time that she was able to sell her first commercially viable piece, and that she reflects on Wellspring. And so I relate completely to what Keiona is saying, that there's so many artists out here whose work is just, if we just put them up next to the established artists, their work can stand. They're just not known. And so, I think that that's a wonderful opportunity for Jackie and I and others who have the opportunity to showcase the work of others. It's a wonderful thing to be a conduit. You don't have to be the light. You could be the road. Everybody needs to walk on something. And if we can be the road for someone's light to shine, then so be it.
Yeah. Lisa, I couldn't echo you more, and Keiona. So I just wanted to say, just from my experience, for the viewers who are watching and what Sheila mentioned, as far as emerging to mastering, listen, every artist, well-known artist at some point, was an emerging artist, including myself. They started out for the first time painting. So, give emerging artists some props, because I also know that my experience earlier on was when you're trying to approach collectors, you just want to be in their collection. And some of them obviously want you a little bit more matured in your artistry. But just remember that art is art. And so, the one thing I'm going to continue to give back is what someone gave me. They saw something in me just by giving me art supplies. And, I mentioned my mentor, Marva Street, but it's something very important about having a mentor along the way. And no matter what field you're in, she actually approached at that time, John, I forget his last name, at the Eastern Market Gallery many years ago. The Eastern Market Gallery was known for producing some great exhibits. My older sister soloed there in the 70s. And I'm like, hey, I'm returning now. But my point is that Marva had this conversation with John, took a few pieces that I was doing and said, well, you consider her in a group show. He said, I'll do more. I'll give her a solo exhibit. Oh, that was, again, almost 18 years ago. Someone saw something in me, as nervous as I was, to be able to continue to mentor me and tell me, you're okay, you're going to be fine. Don't try to compete, just do you. And so let's just remember that, art is all about creating, and you do your best work when you just create and don't think about the sales and don't think about being in this collection or doing this exhibit. Network, network, network. And in the process, enjoy what you're doing. I enjoy painting. And so, I happen to be successful. And again, I'm blessed. But I want to give props to anyone who considers an emerging artist. Based on everything that we've said, we were all emerging artists at some point. So just remember that.
Okay, Sheila. Good.
So I to piggyback off of Rialana is the networking. I think that's so incredibly important to connect collectors with artists, whether they be the contemporaries or the emerging, but also to connect emerging artists with legacy artists, right? I know that last year I initiated a series every, I think, Tuesday night called Collector Shenanigans. And via Zoom, and we had some of the legends as guests, but we also had emerging artists that attended every session, and actually created those connections and those those networking opportunities. I had an opportunity to talk one time with Curly Holton, who's the executive director of the Driscoll Center at the University of Maryland, College Park. And one thing he shared with me, he said, Sheila, it's all about the network. So, whatever we do in this circle, pay it forward so that other collectors and other artists have an opportunity to connect and build networks. So that's the one thing that I think I kind of helped with last year and continue to help with moving forward. Is seeing that, there's some, the next Paul Goodnight, that kind of like that lineage, and understanding that Paul Goodnight was totally fascinated by John Bigger. So there is the progression of our legacy artists, the progression. I'm gonna give you one little story and I'm done. As a collector, and Jackie knows about this, when you're preparing to publish a book and write a book, you have to get permission if you're using the artist's work, because the work, the plates are the intellectual property of the artist, even if you do own the original work. And so I was kind of in my last month, like in crunch time, Pat, and I had some other permissions I had to get, or I had to take the consideration for the work out. And in a matter of 24 hours, I actually had an opportunity to speak with Lou Stovall and his wife, Cal Massey and his wife, James Denmark and his wife, and Richard Mayhew and his wife. That thing made my entire year. And so if I could provide opportunities for collectors and young artists to have those same type of opportunities, that's what we're working for.
Thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up with Jacqueline. And Jacqueline, you can have your influence and your part.
So I would say here at the gallery, one of the things that we do most, not so much with emerging artists, but we reach all the way back to children. Like even right now, I have a display of 15 pieces hanging in the gallery for the month of March of Boy Scout troops who were working on a badge, an art badge for their, troop. And so we have their 15 pieces hanging on the wall in the gallery. So actually this weekend was the final weekend for that. And all of their parents came by with them and their brothers and sisters. and they got to show that their piece of work on the wall. And to us, it's, you just never know, even if it just helps build their self-esteem to know that their work hung on the wall in an art gallery. Over the summer, we have this program called Schools Out, Arts In, where we get artists like Calvin Coleman, John Lister III, these artists to come in and they paint with these children. They tell them stories about like Jacob Lawrence and things like that, and they paint pieces of art towards that. So we go back and reach down to the children and work with them, just to let them know you can be an artist. Let's get rid of that whole stigma that you have to be a starving artist. You can get your legacy building now, or it doesn't have to be that. There's so many people who have wanted to be artists and they couldn't be artists because their parents were like, you'll never survive as an artist. You go to school, or whatever it may have been. But just letting these children know that, they do have a chance.
Well, that is a perfect note to end on. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful discussion. I had another round planned, but we just succinctly ended like right on time. And I need to bring Alicia back in. But before we do that, I just want to thank all of you. I'll give them an opportunity to do the same. But the mission of Black Art Today is to promote artists that depict African American culture in the forms of literature, visual arts, and performing arts. And we go back to the theme of Women's History Month, valiant women in the vote, refusing to be silenced. I thank all of you for refusing to be silenced. And we bring back in Lisa and Alicia, and thank you for promoting and producing this show.
Well, thank you, Pat. And thank you, all the women that participated on the panel. Alicia and I are so very grateful for you to taking the time out of your schedules to dedicate an hour and 15 minutes in our many talks over the last couple of weeks in preparation. And Alicia and I were just sitting here. We've learned so much about you as individuals, but just to see the power and just the presence of all of us in one space and talking about the importance of art in the African American community, and just seeing how all of you, and also including us, the impacts we're making on the art community and making space, creating space when there wasn't space. Like you, Lisa, you created a space. Hey, you don't know anything about art, but hey, I got all these blank walls. Get some artists in here. We're going to put it here. And Dr. Wright, we talk all the time, and I've learned so much from you from a historical standpoint, because I definitely wasn't in the art. Alicia was the artist. I like more of the performing art, but my conversations with you were my aha moments, and it made me go out and do more research. So I don't know if a lot of you've seen our Facebook post, but we've dedicated every day of the month of March, we've dedicated to a female artist, an African-American artist. And from the Alma Thomas to Faith Ringgold to Elizabeth Catlett, we go back and pull something. The research alone for me was phenomenal. And so that was the motivation behind pulling together this panel and saying, we have made such a tremendous contribution to the art world and continue to do it. And just like we've made tremendous contributions to American history, not just African-American history, but American history. And you all are just always carving out a space and making things happen. And I talked to Maria Lana Queen. The first time I saw her art, Alicia and I happened to be at a show in Martha's Vineyard. And we watched how people snapped up her art. She was like one of the most prolific. She had to ship art from Washington, D.C. to replenish what she had on the wall because her stuff was moving. I think she had to do it twice. Her stuff was moving so quickly. And then Jackie, we got to meet you actually through Dr. Wright, and just having a place, a space to go to that features African American art. And you can go there not just to purchase, but to just be in that presence. And that is just, that's an amazing opportunity, because we don't have that here in Prince George's County. What we do, there's one other gallery, but yours is just a difference because it sits in a place of prominence. You can't go to Bowie Town Center without walking past Overdue. You can't go to Macy's. All roads somehow or another lead back to your spot. And for you to have a corner retail in a major shopping center and not only surviving but thriving, that's a testament to our resilience, like we talked about at the beginning. And I know you have an incredible story of how you started, and then you came back, and you're still here. And it's really important for everyone in the African American community to support all these businesses. The same thing for Wellsprings. The first African American bed and breakfast, I think, in Prince George's County, if not within the DMV. That in and of itself is an accomplishment. And then to open up your doors to artists, that we have artists from Black Art Today that are hanging on your walls, and for you to open that space up, that's noteworthy. That's something that people need to know about, need to talk about. And then Keiona, all the work that you do in the community. I know that you took a collective from Prince George's County, and they were actually part of Art Basel, Miami Art Week. They were in Spectrum. It has never, ever, ever happened before. That is noteworthy. And people need to understand the power of this collective group of women that I have here in this panel. And Dr. Wright, again, you published a book 2 years ago. And I remember when I met you, and I knew that you were working with Poncho and you were going back and forth, and I knew the struggles that you were having, because getting people to agree for you to use those images. Nobody that's in this presentation, viewing this presentation, don't sleep on any of these women here. They are phenomenal women. They have done incredible things. They have made an enormous impact on the community. They're going to continue to do that. And Pat, Alicia and I have been sitting here saying we could not have selected a better moderator. Pat, you're a beast. We love it. We love all of you. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thanks to everyone that decided to join us. We're hoping to do something again in the near future once everybody has gotten the vaccine or COVID goes away. But we'd like to do something live and have the same panelists, and then bring in some your artwork, your books. I just think there's just so much tremendous energy and synergy with this group. And again, I want to thank each and every one of you ladies for taking part of this and making the sacrifices to be a part of our community, and always embracing Alicia and Lisa, the little Black Art Today, and bringing us in and collaborating with us. We really appreciate all the support that we get, and we hope that we are providing the support to all of you. And if there's again, we just want to say thank you, and I'm going to close it out at that. I've taken up a lot of time, but I wanted to close it out. Alicia kicked it off, and again, thanks everyone for participating, and everyone that's online. Thank you. You heard about these women. Go to their businesses, support their radios, radio show. That's Pat. Support the art galleries. Buy Dr. Wright's book. Learn how to be a collector. Support the Keiona Clarks and the DMV League of Artists. those artists need our support, and not just by buying their artwork, but also making a little monetary contribution to some of the things that they do out there. And again, thanks everyone. I really enjoyed it. And Pat, I'll turn it back over to you to close it out. And everyone have a great evening.
Oh, what an honor. It is an honor. You gave me an opportunity to say thank you for the thanks. And be certain to support as you were directed by Lisa. And support Lisa and Elisa. Support Black Art Today. And make sure that you do something like some of the stories that were just told. It may be a kind word. It may be having someone on your radio show. It may be promoting an event. It may be putting a dime, in the coffers, but make sure that you do something to help somebody. I thank each and every one of the panelists. I thank the viewers who are tuning in and taking your time on a Sunday. And I close out because Lisa actually said it all. Thank you and good day. It is an honor. We'll all say thank you.